Emily had always believed in love stories. Not the kind you read in fairy tales, but the sort you could build, day by day, with someone who truly cared. With Daniel, she thought she had found exactly that. They had met in college, both young and full of dreams. What started with late-night study sessions and shared cups of cheap coffee blossomed into a decade-long relationship. By the time they married, Emily was convinced their love could weather any storm. For years, their life together seemed perfect. They bought a modest house in the suburbs, decorated it with mismatched furniture that carried more memories than value, and filled it with laughter. Daniel had a stable job in finance, while Emily worked as an art teacher at the local high school. On weekends, they would visit the farmer's market, stroll hand in hand, and talk about the future, vacations they would take, children they might raise, dreams they would never let go of. But perfection, Emily would later realize, is often just a well-painted mask. It began with small changes. Daniel started working late, coming home tired and distracted. He brushed off her questions with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The warmth in his voice cooled, the gentle touches grew less frequent. Emily tried not to notice, tried to convince herself it was just stress, that every relationship had its quiet seasons. But in the silence that grew between them, her heart began to ache. Then came Michael. Michael was a new teacher at her school, joining the history department in the middle of the semester. Tall, with kind brown eyes and a disarming sense of humor, he fit into the faculty lounge quickly. Emily hadn't thought much of him at first, but one afternoon, as they both lingered after a staff meeting, he struck up a conversation. "You look like you could use a strong cup of coffee," he said, holding out a spare cup. Emily laughed, accepting it. "You're not wrong. The day these kids stop submitting essays late will be the day pigs fly." That was the beginning. Their conversations became frequent, easy, natural. With Michael, she didn't have to force a smile or pretend everything was fine. He noticed things, the way her brow furrowed when she was worried, the light in her eyes when she talked about painting. At first, Emily felt guilty for enjoying his company. She told herself it was harmless, just friendship. But deep down, she knew why her heart fluttered when he stopped by her classroom, or why she lingered on his stories about traveling. He made her feel seen in a way Daniel hadn't in months. Meanwhile, Daniel grew even more distant. Nights at the office turned into entire weekends away on business trips. Emily tried to stay patient, but suspicion began to creep in like a shadow she couldn't shake. It happened on a cold November evening. Emily had stayed late at school grading papers when she realized she had forgotten her sketchbook at home. She drove back quickly, hoping to catch Daniel for dinner. But when she opened the front door, the sound of laughter, female laughter, drifted down the hall. Her breath caught. She stepped quietly, her pulse pounding in her ears, until she reached the living room. There on the couch where they had once shared so many tender moments, sat Daniel. His arm was draped around a woman Emily had never seen before. Their faces were close, too close, and in the brief moment before they noticed her, Daniel kissed her. The world tilted. Emily's voice trembled. "Daniel?" His head snapped up, color draining from his face. The woman stood abruptly, muttering something incoherent before rushing past Emily and out the door. The silence that followed was unbearable. Daniel tried to speak, stumbling over excuses. "It's not what it looks like. I was going to tell you. It was a mistake." But the betrayal was etched into Emily's heart. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. Instead, she walked upstairs, packed a small bag, and left. Emily stayed at her sister's apartment for the next few weeks. The nights were the hardest, lying awake, replaying every moment, every smile, every promise Daniel had made. She felt foolish for believing in a love that turned out to be a lie. Michael noticed her absence at school. One afternoon, he knocked on her classroom door. "You've been quieter lately," he said gently. "Are you okay?" The concern in his eyes broke her walls. She told him everything. The affair, the betrayal, the emptiness. He listened without judgment, offering quiet support. "You didn't deserve that," he said firmly. "No one deserves that." Their friendship deepened, and though Emily was careful not to rush into anything, she couldn't ignore the warmth that bloomed whenever Michael was near. He reminded her of what it felt like to be valued, respected, loved without conditions. Daniel, of course, didn't give up easily. He called, texted, begged for forgiveness. He showed up at her school one afternoon, eyes red, voice breaking. "Emily, please. I made a mistake, but I love you. Don't throw away everything we built." She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time saw not the man she had loved, but the man who had shattered her trust. His words rang hollow. That evening, she sat alone by the river where she and Daniel once dreamed of their future. The air was crisp, the water reflecting the golden lights of the town. She thought about the past, the love that once felt unbreakable, and the betrayal that had burned it to ashes. And she thought about Michael, the way he had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return, the way he reminded her that broken hearts could heal. When Daniel called again, she didn't answer. Instead, she sent him one final message. "You broke something I can't repair. I'm moving on." Emily didn't rush into Michael's arms that night. Healing takes time, and she knew she had to rebuild herself first. But slowly, piece by piece, she let him in. They started with small steps: coffee after work, walks in the park, shared laughter that felt like sunlight after a long storm. By spring, Emily realized she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living. And when Michael finally took her hand and confessed that he had fallen for her, she didn't hesitate. Love, she learned, wasn't about perfection. It was about honesty, respect, and the courage to stay even when things got hard. Daniel remained a memory, a painful chapter in her life. But Michael became something new, a reminder that even after betrayal, hearts could still find their way back to love.